48. 48 or 9?
8.
You said 9?
I said 8.
8. Shaunaka uvacha yat aha no bhava sutta. Shaunaka uvacha yat aha no bhavan sutta kshata bhagavatottamaha. Is it working now? And then sit there and listen. Where did I stop? Chachara tirtani bhuvas chaktva bandhun sudushtyajan. Translation. Shaunaka Rishi, after hearing all about the creation, inquired from Sutta Goswami about Vidura. For Sutta Goswami had previously informed him how Vidura left home, leaving aside all his relatives who were very difficult to leave. So after hearing about the various kalpas of Lord Brahma's days and so many other descriptions related to the process of creation and annihilation, now the sages, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, they wanted to hear about the devotees of the Lord. Because in the previous descriptions, it was difficult to find the process of devotional service to the Lord. Since these descriptions were related to this material world. So after hearing about the temporary nature of this material manifestation, now the sages and Shaunaka Rishi were very eager to hear about the devotees of the Lord and especially Vidura. Because Vidura was such an example who had a very affectionate, strong relationship to his relatives, to his family. He was a very, very noble soul, Vidura. And he was engaged in all sorts of mundane activities. The Pandavas and the Kauravas, they consulted him because he was very, very wise, very learned, ideal in character, and yet he left everything. Because as I mentioned the other day, the most severe or strong, intensive attachment is this attachment to family. Nothing is more binding the conditioned soul to this material existence, save and accept family attachment.
Нищо повече не обвързва душата към материалното съществуване от привързаността към семейството.
Therefore, in the Vedic system, it is advised that householder, he should latest possible point in his life, with 50, he should renounce his family.
И затова в ведическата литература се казва, че семейният най-късно на 50 години трябва да остави семейството си.
Otherwise, he will never be able to renounce.
Иначе никога няма да е в състояние да го остави, да се отрича от него.
Then he is being forced to renounce, which is very painful.
По-късно той ще е принуден да се откаже от семейството си, а това вече е много болезнено.
To renounce something voluntarily, it is painful.
Да се откаже от нещо доброволно, това също е причинява страдание.
But by force, it is so much more painful.
Но когато това става на сила, тогава страданието е много по-голямо.
Therefore, Vedic system advises one should renounce voluntarily.
И затова ведическата литература съветва човек доброволно да се откаже.
So Vidura was such a case.
И случай с Видура бил такъв.
He was being pierced by the arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart by the words of Duryodhana.
И думите на Дуryodhana влезе като стрелива в ушите му и достигна до сърцето на Видура.
Because Vidura, he was always on the side of the Pandavas,
Видура винаги бил на страната на пандавите,
since he himself was a great devotee of the Lord.
понеже той самия бил велик предан отдаден за Бога.
And naturally Duryodhana, he did not like this.
Разбира се, това не се хареса на Дуryodhana.
So at the end he revealed his mind, Duryodhana. He said, he insulted Vidura Maharaj very much.
И накрая Дуryodhana разкрил ума си и много жестоко убил Видура.
You son of a mistress, who asked you to be here in this house, in very insulting words.
Той казва, ти си на слугиня, кой те покани да дойдеш в този дом?
Although Vidura was accepted as a very elevated soul,
Въпреки че всички приемали Видура за много издигната душа,
materially he was the son of a mistress,
но в материално отношение той бил син на слугиня,
a son of a Sudrani.
син на Шудрани.
So Duryodhana, he considered him to be a Sudra.
Така че Дуryodhana смята Видура за Шудра.
And although Duryodhana, he know that by qualification, there was no question that Vidura was a Sudra.
Разбира се, Дуryodhana знал, че Видура далеч не притежава качеството на Шудра.
He was superior to Brahmana.
Той стоял по-високо дори от браманите.
But envy makes one blind.
Но завистта прави човек сляп.
And Duryodhana, he was so envious of Vidura.
Дуryodhana е много завиждан на Видура.
So he pointed this out to him.
И той точно това, и той разкрил това пред него.
You are not even, by birth, you are not even fit to be in our association.
Поради произхода си ти не си подходящ да бъдеш общува с нас.
So now Vidura, he could see that Duryodhana, he was actually acting under the influence of Maya, the external energy of the Lord.
Видура вижда, че Дуryodhana действа под влиянието на Майя, под влиянието на външната енергия на Бога.
And he could understand that he was simply making progress toward his own ruination.
И той вижда, че Дуryodhana просто се устремил към собствения си падък.
And it is described here that he therefore considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme.
И затова Дуryodhana смятал, че дейностите на вътрешната енергия са върховните дейности.
Yet he also saw how the internal energy of the Lord helped him in that particular situation.
И той също така виждал как вътрешната енергия на Бога му помага в конкретната ситуация, която има.
Now that's a very important point.
И това е изключително важно.
That a devotee, he is always in a renounced temperament. He is always in a renounced mood, temperament. What is happening this morning? Not enough sleep? So a devotee is always renounced. Because he does not actually feel very much attraction to this world. His mind is not absorbed in matter. His mind is actually absorbed in Krishna. So Vidura, actually he was not attracted to the royal palace of his brothers. Or of his brother. He was always ready to leave the palace, the place, at any given time. And devote himself completely to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. It is something like, sometimes we have young devotees, they want to join the movement, join the temple. But perhaps they still have to go to school. So they cannot join. But in their heart, they are just waiting for that opportune moment to join. And sometimes they are asking the devotees, shall I just run away from home? No, this is not good. You should not do this. So then he continues with his worldly activities. But in his heart, he's always renounced. And he's just waiting for that moment that he can take advantage of and then join the temple. So Vidura, he was in that he was in that mood always. Although engaged in so many mundane worldly activities, he always maintained in his heart a mood of renunciation. And he could clearly understand now the external energy is acting. You see, a devotee, he's not, he does not think in a naive way that everything is Krishna's mercy. In other words, everything, whatever anybody does, it is spiritual. No, he can clearly distinguish. Now, he is in Maya, he is in Krishna consciousness, he is doing some nonsense, he is doing some good work. He knows. But in this case, Vidura, he could clearly understand. Now the external energy is acting through Duryodhana. And in order to give me the opportunity, a punch to renounce. And therefore the internal energy is acting at the same time, both. The external energy and the internal energy acting simultaneously. That was Vidura's unique realization. So therefore the rishis headed by Shaunaka, they wanted to hear about this unique example of Vidura's renunciation. So for the rest of the class we shall finish our story, Vasishta Muni and who was the other one? Huh? Vishvamitra Muni, yes. So we stopped at that point when Vasishtha Muni, he frustrated at his failure to take his own life. Now he went back to his own hermitage. And there he did not see his beloved sons anymore, and the sage, he was filled with pain and sorrow. So again he left his hermitage, and then he proceeded toward the river. And again, thinking about committing suicide, he threw himself into the river. And he was binding himself with ropes. But again, nothing happened. He was washed to the shore, completely unharmed. Thereafter he lost his mind in sorrow and did not stay in one place. He started wandering. He went to mountains, rivers and lakes. Then the sage again saw a large river coming down from the Himalayan range. Full of ferocious crocodiles. He dropped himself into her waters. But that fine river felt the sage like a touch of fire. The river, he felt the touch of the sage just like fire. And then the river fled into 100 parts. And then the river became famous as Satradru, Satadru, which means 100 branches. So again his failure to commit suicide was frustrated. And he said to himself, it is simply not possible to die. And again he went back to his hermitage. As he came near to his ashram, his daughter-in-law Adrishyanti followed along behind him unseen. But Vasishtha, he heard the loud, clear sound of Vedic recitation. With the meaningful chanting of the 6 Vedic branches. With the chanting of, he could hear the chanting of the 6 Vedic branches. The lovely sound surprised the sage. And he realized that someone was following him. Who is that following me? He said. My name is Adrishyanti, and I'm your daughter-in-law. The girl replied. Most noble sage, I'm the wife of Shakti. Who remembers who Shakti was? Which sage? Yeah, almost. You almost got it. Jai. Haribo. Now he's making some progress now. Vasishta Muni, he said, daughter, who is making that beautiful sound? I once heard Shakti chant the Veda exactly in that way. Adrishyanti said, he who chants is born of your son Shakti, dear sage. And for 12 years he has been studying the Vedas inside my womb. That sometimes happened with sages. Mother was pregnant for 12 or 16 years. Because sometimes these sages, they don't like to take birth. Thinking there's so much Maya out there. Let me just stay in the womb. Meditate on the Brahman. But when they hear Srimad Bhagavatam devotional service, then they become attracted to come out. Because it's difficult to render service in the womb. At these words, the exalted Vasishta became jubilant. He was so happy, he started dancing. Our family lives, our family lives. In this way, he turned away from death. He was no longer interested any longer to die. So then Shakti's faithful wife thus brought the sage out of his depression. But then, as he looked around his hermitage, he saw King Kalmashapada, who behaved like a Rakshasa. He was sitting in the surrounding wilderness. He was sitting somewhere. Spying the sage, the king angrily rose up. Possessed by the fierce Rakshasa, he went to attack Vasishta. And seeing that man of cruel deeds in front of them, Adrishyanti was terrified. And said to Vasishta, my lord, the horrible Rakshasa has grabbed a log and he is coming at us like death himself. O noble one, best of Vedic scholars, there's no one in this world who could save us from this danger except you. Save me from this wicked man. This Rakshasa wants to eat us. Vasishta Muni said, don't be afraid, daughter. There's nothing to fear from this Rakshasa. The person you see standing in front of you is not a Rakshasa at all. Nor is he the Lord of Death. He is the king Karmasapada. And he is celebrated throughout the world for his prowess. But he now stays here and spreads terror in this remote corner of the forest. Seeing the king rushing to attack them, Vasishta Muni shining with his prowess immediately stopped him simply by uttering the vibration Hum! Hum Pat! These are very strong mantras, words to chase away ghosts. Then with water sanctified by mantra, the sage again chased away the mighty king. Again the king attacked. Vasishta Muni, he sprinkled sanctified sanctified water by mantras. He sprinkled upon the king. And that instantly liberated him from the ghostly Rakshasa. For 12 years, by the force of Vasishta's son, the king's real consciousness had been virtually swallowed up. Freed now from the Rakshasa, the king lit up the forest with his splendor.